Welcome, everybody. It's the Radio Surgery Show with Dr. Gil Lederman, MD, New York's only Harvard-trained, triple board-certified radiation oncologist who brings you the latest cancer treatment news, interviewing world-renowned cancer experts, delving into special cases, and, of course, answering your questions. I'm Rob Redstone, broadcasting from the WABC studios in the heart of New York City. And now, please welcome Dr. Lederman.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Doctor. How are you?
I'm here with John and Rob, my co-hosts, and
good morning, Dr. Lederman.
Nice to see you all, and hello to all our
Pleasure
listeners.
to be here.
Thank you. We have Coop and Aaron in the controls who are making this show so beautiful. We're live, so you're welcome to call in if you want. Our number is 1-800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. Sometimes I forget to tell people.
Yeah. Sometimes we got to give them the number so they can call in.
So I want to dedicate this show to a woman I met this spring, and she died. She was a young woman, 39 years old, with Fanconi's anemia. Have you ever, Rob, heard of that disease?
I know it's related to the kidney.
Well, Fanconi's anemia, yeah, it's a genetic disease. It's very, very, very rare. Very, very rare. There's an anemia related to it. Fanconi was a doctor who described it. And for genetic reasons, these people are very predisposed to cancers of the head and neck area. And so it's devastating for the anemia, but that's only the minor part. The relationship to cancers is tremendous. And then the relationship to adverse outcomes to treatment is also dramatic. So this was a young woman. She went to a big hospital. You can imagine which one. And she got chemo, and she nearly died. She had one shot of chemo. She ended up in the hospital for 2 months and a nursing home for 4 months. This was a 39-year-old woman.
I was going to say, very young.
And the cancer traveled to the lung, and I proposed that we start very gently with radiosurgery, which is non-invasive, focused treatment, just to hit that metastasis in the lung. I thought it'd escalate the dose, show her that it would be safe. And she was so frightened because of her bad experience with chemotherapy. And you can imagine 6 months in the hospital, she couldn't walk after chemo because of this disease, that she just refused all treatment. And her father called me yesterday to say that she died. So we had a nice relationship.
It's a shame.
And actually, she was very fascinated with radio. I met her last spring, and I told her, well, why don't you come on the show as co-host?
Oh, that'd be great.
And tell people about the disease and what it's like and your experiences. And she really wanted to.
Okay.
So it's really sad, and I dedicate this show to her. I can't use her name, but I'm sure her parents know what we're talking about. Well, believe it or not, when radiation oncology is in the news, something big is happening. And actually, headlines in Wall Street Journal this week were for radiation on Thursday, August 29th. And I've got the paper here, and you two can see it. Cancer therapy under attack. So it's pretty important news, because right now I see a lot of men with prostate cancer, and men justifiably are confused because they hear this treatment, that treatment, the next treatment. We get the cut out the cancer and you're home free, and then they find out, well, you're not exactly free. The bill wasn't free, and the cancer's coming back.
Exactly.
And then all the side effects that stay with people forever. This article is about proton beam. So proton beam is fascinating because most radiation beams, once they get going, they keep on going. Mm-hmm. And we use photon beams, and we direct them from many different angles. You can imagine, like Star Wars, you have multiple angles that all converge on the cancer. So in a particular area of healthy tissue, there's no adverse effects, or almost no adverse effects, which is different than radiation used to be. Radiation used to be, and unfortunately in some places still is, by one side or two sides or four sides. And so a lot of healthy tissues get radiated. So proton beam, which has been around since the 1940s, it actually is not new, is trying to take advantage of what's called the Bragg peak. So the radiation goes in the body, it deposits itself, and then it stops. So that's the beauty of proton beam. So the question is, does it do any good? Is it better for the patient? And can you give a treatment without bankrupting the patient? And I was in Europe last year, and we were offering treatment for a particular kind of cancer, and the patient came with a letter from a big hospital in America, not far from here, and they were offering proton beam to this woman for $250,000.
Wow.
It was a normal family in Italy, and you
Sure.
can imagine, they probably make $1,000 a month, where they're ever going to come up with
$250,000, yeah.
$250,000. And here I was, we were going to do more work using radiosurgery, and the price was 5% of that.
A fraction.
Okay, 95% less. And I just, wow. I mean, they probably see my price and their price. I think something's wrong with me,
Sure, yeah.
but I think something's wrong with them.
There you go.
So anyway, and some people say that when your price is too low, people think, well, there must be something wrong with it.
What's that phrase? You price yourself out of the market.
Right, you
To a
price
degree.
yourself, you're too low.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're too low. And so this is a very interesting article, and what's talking about proton beam, and you can hear about it on radio in New York City. It's
Right,
and across the nation. Multiple insurance companies are now stopping covering for proton beam.
Why
Just
is that?
treatment alone, doctor?
Just that treatment alone. That treatment alone. Why? Well, you can imagine if your insurance company, you've got so much pie to pass around,
Yeah.
and you'd want to know, is a treatment better, right? And in 60 years of proton beam, Rob, you know how many studies have shown proton beam is better than photon beam in 60 years?
I have no idea.
John?
I wouldn't know either. I'm assuming. So.
Well, think about a big goose.
Okay.
And what does a goose lay?
Eggs.
And when you hear about a goose egg, what does that tell you? How many studies? Zero.
Not too, I was going to say,
Zero.
on the lower side.
Okay,
doctor.
so when you have insurance companies that are asking to pay tens of thousands of dollars for treatment that are not better, what are they going to do? They're going to start running away.
Right.
So either they're doing one of two things, and the insurance companies, I think Aetna has stopped covering. Blue Cross of California has stopped covering. Blue Shield, they sent letters to 300 radiation oncologists saying in October it will no longer cover proton beam for early-stage prostate cancer.
Wow.
Aetna, the third largest insurer, is stopping coverage for prostate cancer proton beam. And the change, they said, is, quote, designed to help members across America access safe, effective, and cost-effective strategies. Cigna's going to review its policy this year. Highmark and Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas City have positions against it. And WellPoint, which is a very big insurer,
Sure.
it's very big.
Yep. They're a national insurance carrier.
So they're doing the opposite. They're saying, okay, we'll cover it, but we're going to negotiate the price down.
Okay.
And they're so big, maybe they'll negotiate the price down. But then you get into data about what's what. So the typical man, we spoke about Gleason score. Do you remember that?
Sure
Yeah.
do.
So what is Gleason, John? I know Rob knows all this stuff because he's a doctor to be.
Remind me there, Rob.
So basically, it looks at two different parts of the prostate cancer.
Right.
And so through that, you can tell basically how advanced it is or,
Okay.
or how serious it is.
Right. So you can see there's a scale of 1 to 5. So in two areas, 1 + 1 = 2 is the best you can have, which I've seen thousands of men. I've never seen that. It doesn't really exist. But the worst, 5 + 5 = 10, does exist, and it's very aggressive. The average man with prostate cancer has a Gleason 3 + 3 = 6. So if you have Gleason 3 + 3 = 6 or 4 + 3 = 7, proton beam success rate for prostate cancer is 76% at a leading center in America. We are at 87%, so 14% better. And if you think about 200,000 men a year with prostate cancer, 14% means 28,000 lives. So it's huge differences.
Yep.
These numbers are huge. And if you have higher Gleason score, Gleason 8, 9, 10, and you go for proton beam, the success rate is only 48%, meaning the majority of the men treated with prostate cancer have recurrence of their cancer. We're 46% higher. We're at 70%, even for those high-risk men. And we do it in less time. And we do it for less money. So if your insurance company, if you can show you better results in less time for the same risk factor, obviously you want to encourage your patients to go there. So I'm bringing up the topic because I get lots of phone calls from men, proton beam or not, and these installations sometimes they cost $100 or $200 million.
Wow.
And if they cannot get these prostate patients, they probably will fail because there's not enough other cancers that need focal treatment, so to speak. And right now there's about 11 centers across America, and there's about 15 being built. And it's often being built by businessmen. And you can imagine if these insurance companies are stopping payment, what's going to happen to these centers. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing because if they can't prove their treatment is better, they really shouldn't be doing it.
Sure.
So I refer you all to this article in Wall Street Journal on Thursday. It was one of the lead articles. And one of the experts at Harvard, Dr. Chandra, said he was encouraged by the steps that insurers are taking, but he pushed that Medicare should stop paying for proton beam because of it, because it has not been shown to be superior. So it's interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a very interesting story. We have Dr. Eisen on the line. Dr. Eisen is a colleague of mine who's dedicated his life to taking care of Spanish-speaking patients. Good morning, Dr. Eisen.
Good morning, Dr. Liederman.
You have to turn off the radio in the background, otherwise we're going to have...
There is no radio here. I don't know.
Something's going on.
Well, let's.
How you
we
doing
can hear you,
today?
okay, Dr. Eisen. Go for it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Why don't you call back? Why don't you call back with a new phone line, because we got a lot of feedback. If you would, sorry. So we'll hope to speak to Dr. Eisen, who's taking care of our Spanish-speaking patients. There's other news out there today, and some of the news is from patients, which I always try to learn from patients and pass on information about patient care. I had a man who came in today with kidney cancer. And it was an interesting man. He's worked for the city of New York for 35 years. And he wasn't feeling fine. He had abdominal pain and weakness, and they fired him in March. He lost his job. He lost his insurance.
Wow.
Terrible.
And then he went to the doctor. And when he went to the doctor, he had a cancer of the kidney and the adjacent tissues. I mean, Rob, you know the adjacent tissues. So it spread from the kidney to the arteries and veins of the kidney to the aorta, which is the main blood vessel from the heart, right?
From there it can go anywhere.
And it went to the inferior vena cava, and it went to the artery of the opposite kidney.
That's terrible.
So you can imagine how extensive this cancer is.
Sure.
And he's anemic, and he's got pain, and he's suffering, and he came to me, and doctors elsewhere were trying to talk to him about surgery. We can imagine he has surgery of the kidney. It's involving both renal arteries, inferior vena cava, aorta, and he has a pleural effusion. So tell people what a pleural effusion is.
Yeah, so it's basically like a fluid in the pleural space, which is like around the lung.
And what do you think the cause of that is in someone who's got an advanced kidney cancer?
Well, it's associated with tumors as well.
Right, because often cancers spread to the pleura,
Right.
and there's a lot of fluid that the body makes. The pleura is the surface covering of the lung, and the body makes a lot of fluid and absorbs a lot of fluid. And often when the cancer cells get into that pleura, the body can't absorb the fluid anymore, so the fluid accumulates. So he's probably got metastatic disease to the pleura and this big mass. And I told him I think the likelihood of successful surgery is about the goose egg again.
Yeah.
I agree.
And it's a great case for radiosurgery, and so we're going to talk to him about doing radiosurgery on this. We usually do 5 treatments, and usually for kidney cancer, our success rate's about 90%.
That's
where we
great.
aim the beam to stop, shrink, or make the thing go away with time. We need to put a needle in that fluid and see if it's malignant or not.
Right.
And that's where we stand. But it's an interesting case that he worked so long for the city. Instead of going to the doctor first, he went to the, I don't know what, the employment office.
With the
and they
union
fired
or
him.
whatever his case may be.
So it's
Right.
really sad. And
Yeah.
often
Very
men
sad.
see doctors less than women. It's something, I don't know, in our genes that we don't like to see doctors.
It's
very much.
stubbornness. Yeah, maybe that's what it is, guys.
It's something. Maybe it's maybe us men are a little bit stupid. Anyway, Dr. Eisen's back here, so hopefully we're going to get a good line. Good morning, Dr. Eisen. Buenos dias.
Buenos dias, Dr. Liederman.
Buenos
That's a lot
dias,
better.
doctor.
How are you today?
Very good. How are you?
Great. So I was telling our listeners that, Dr. Eisen, you have devoted your life to taking care of Spanish-speaking patients. You were born and educated in Argentina, and you trained in radiation at Columbia, so you have a 4-star education. And tell me what you do for your patients.
Well, one of the things that we are doing at your center right now is working with patients sometimes that they fail the treatments. And when they come to us, sometimes...
These are people that have treatments that fail elsewhere.
And what happened is that some of these patients, they come to us, and after a very long conversation, we are able to, in some of them, focus the radiation exactly in the area of recurrence. And amazingly, for the patients and for us, some of these